Audio check, audio check.
Audio check, baby, 1, 2, 3. What you got? What you gonna do today?
Yeah.
Smithsonian's, welcome back. Yeah, this ain't just content, it's purpose. Purpose over popularity. We building legacy, not just views. Every story got meaning, every voice got truth. Camera rolling, vision clear. We turn purpose into impact here. Smith says, let's go. Let's go.
All right.
How you
Dr. White, we're
Yes,
back in the
sir.
lab.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always good to be back here. It's always good to be recognized as doctor.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
working towards. I guess I have a doctorate in all my training, but no one has given me a certificate. I could probably certify myself. I got all kind of certificates, boy. I just pull the bad boys together.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, you actually are a doctor. You're my doctor
Okay.
because
I appreciate it.
definitely when I'm talking more, I can recall some of the things you said to respond back. But
Okay.
before I just be like, okay, taking it,
Mm-hmm.
but not like, a little bite, little
But
bite.
that's good, and that's what you do. You store it, and when it's called for, it'll automatically pop up. Say, "Oh, is this the right thing?" Yes. Let me put that one out there.
Yes.
But you had another question in regards to someone that wrote in. You think it might
Yeah,
be a white person, Caucasian?
correct. So when you talk about self-improvement,
Mm-hmm.
and there's time you have to express some things, but the comment was made, quit being a victim, take control of your life. Many other black men have done it and been successful, starting out with nothing and growing up in a ghetto. But it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a white person saying, it's like, are you even listening? It's like,
Well,
why you?
here's my thought. Whenever someone asks a question or gives advice,
Okay,
the first thing I would say to that person, whoever it was,
okay,
have you earned the right to be able to give that advice
mm,
to anyone?
okay,
Do you give that advice to your son or daughter? Or do you give that advice to someone of other ethnicity? Should I say that to someone who's gay or lesbian and say, just be straight, just get over it, all those kind of stupid things that we hear people saying. And so with that individual, I would say if he or she has never been of whatever ethnicity, he's talking about African American, then how would they know what challenges that are out there unless that individual has really studied and really looked at what is the plight of Black people in America, going back as far as he can go, and then bringing it right on up to current day and say, what's the plight today? So we don't know what that situation might be for that person. I might tell someone who's African American, man, stand the hell up and go it on. But it may be because he and I or she and I have had some chances to talk. And I see that they have the resources, they have the background that they need to be able to go ahead and do that. But for someone to carte blanche just make that statement, I would love to have that person, whoever that individual, to make that question. I appreciate you. But what I would like even more than that, I would love for you to kind of come on and let's have a dialogue around that. Let's talk about what that means. Let's talk about where you're coming from. And let's talk about what have you done in your society to support anyone that happens to be of a different ethnicity or someone of your own ethnicity. That's why I say, has that person, have they earned the right to provide that kind of information themselves, as opposed to them asking a question and saying, well, I wonder what has happened to that person. Because here's the thing I wonder about. I go on the corners driving different places. I see more white guys on the corner begging for money than any other population. And my thing is, how could a white guy in the United States of America not be able to get a job when the vast majority of everything here in the United States is white?
hmm,
And I know that whites have advantages, and I've seen them with advantages. And I work with other white people and train with them that would tell me, yes, as a white person, I've had advantages. Now, that doesn't mean that other white people haven't had disadvantages, that other white people haven't had challenges that puts them in a position where they cannot maybe stand up or pull themselves up by their bootstrap. So that's why I'd have to know that guy, whoever he is. Call in, and Mr. Whoever you are, call in again or write in again. Give a little bit more information. I'm not here to hassle you, but what I like to do is to have a dialogue with you around your perceptions and why you feel the way you do, and have you earned the right to give that kind of information to anyone.
So um, there's two things I was thinking.
Okay?
Is it well, I'm not laughing at people in
No,
situation, but
no.
when you're talking about the wops and the white, like on the street corner, like which, how would you
I'm
know?
talking about white Anglo. No, and that I don't know.
Okay,
All the thing I know is that they appear to be European, in terms of their color, in terms of their hair, sometimes in terms of their gestures. I see more, just like when I see someone who's brown. I don't know whether they're black. I don't know where they're from. I don't know whether they're from the United States or from someplace else. You make that quick judgment, that snap judgment. But I would bet that the guys that I'm looking at and seeing on the street who look white are white Europeans.
okay. So that brings a question that I'm thinking is the Brownsville neighborhood, like they say the Black Wall Street, not the
Hmm.
what original slave like, but like the Black thriving communities, and they have before that, let's go to what was it like, because my train of thought I'm trying to say is we had when we were diversified, our own neighborhood
Hmm.
separated, we was thriving, so
Yeah.
we were able to help each other more. But it's when we became gentrified and
Hmm.
close to other people, that's when we became
Right.
greedy, like we was
Well,
taught that.
well, let me give you mine. My experience, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, born there in 1942, and grew up in the community. Now, the community that I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania was called the Negro community because that time in the 40s and 50s, we were considered as Negroes.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
does your birth certificate have Negro on it? I know some. Well, my
On
friend
my birth
it says
certificate,
Negro. It
it
doesn't say
probably,
black. It
it
says Negro.
probably does. I never looked to see whether it had Negro on it
Okay.
because I'm certain that it would be because at that time that was the only term that was being used. You didn't put down colored because at one point in time colored was being used, and then another point in time African American was being used, and then African by itself, and then ultimately American. So that could be new, but that was the appropriate term because when you think about it, when we came out of slavery, during slavery, the word was the N word, and that's what you're doing. And so I'm not the N word, I'm colored. Because if you would have called someone black then, if you wanted to fight on your hands, what you would say, you black, blah, 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 blah. Oh man, I ain't black, I'm colored. And the fight would be on because we perceived at that particular time, based upon what we went through during slavery, we perceived black as being a derogatory term, a negative term. We didn't had not got to the point where we knew how to embrace who we are, embrace our blackness, embrace our culture. So therefore, we were struggling to kind of get out. And so we went from the whole thing of the N word to being colored. And then after colored, we accepted Negro,
We accepted.
over other terminology. And then after Negro, we were African Americans, because some black people didn't want to associate with the term Africa because they viewed Africa in a negative way. Until we educated ourselves, man, we were kept dumb, ignorant. I mean, we didn't even know in many instances where we came from unless it was passed down from, people that you were on the plantation with or what have you. So it was a struggle. Identify. And even today, we still have the same problem. We have light skin, dark skin, not understanding the reason why, as black people, we were told to marry light because if you were light, that meant you had a better opportunity to get a job, a better opportunity to get housing, a better opportunity to go to college, a better opportunity to walk down the street, a better opportunity to live in certain neighborhoods, better opportunities to go to hospitals, better opportunity to go downtown to different department stores based upon your skin color. And that was a result of the oppression that we were under as a result of white, pure, straight up white racism. White oppression created those kinds of things in us. So it's taken us a while to discover ourselves, to get to a point where we can feel proud about who we are, proud about what we do, feel proud about the whole piece around. I think the slave was the baddest person in the world, boy. The slave was on it. If you needed something to get done, guess who they called on? They called on the slave. Our people were just brilliant and strong, you know, and resilient because under all that pressure, we did all of those things. Right now, I'm stuck on this whole piece with Thomas Jefferson, who had 600 slaves, and then he wanted to say that well, Africans just aren't intelligent enough to be able to deal with life on their own. If we emancipate them, they would be just like emancipating a child. For that to come out of his mouth is absolutely sick. Everything around Thomas Jefferson was done by black people, were done by Africans. From the mortar that they used to build the houses, the bricks that were made, they even had the fingerprints of little kids in the bricks that built their house, the food that they ate, the food that was prepared for them, the food that was grown for them, everything, the clothes that were made. And he's going to make a statement like that. He's the purest racist and then after molesting and raping a 14-year-old girl and having 6 children with her, he didn't even emancipate her when he died. He's a dog. In my opinion, he's the lowest of the low because he had every opportunity. He was educated. He went to colleges. He started, I think, the University of Virginia or Virginia University, whatever it was. He traveled all over the world. But that man had that kind of a mindset. And that's what we're confronted with today. There's some people, and it could be that guy, who, not knowing a damn thing about what they're really saying, cannot stand up and acknowledge that America is a racist society. And you say, if you don't believe it's racist, do some homework, do some studying. Look at jobs and who's in jobs and why they're in jobs and who's at the very tops of organizations and what we had to go through. We couldn't even vote. We had to do how many was it? Marbles in the jar. How the hell you know how many marbles in the damn jar? I mean, all that stuff that they went through to keep us down when all the time they said we were what? We were ignorant. Well, if we were ignorant and if we were dumb, why would you have to keep books away from us? Why would you have to keep school away from us? If you would have allowed us to have access to books and go to school, if we were dumb and ignorant people based on what some racist folk have said, we would have never learned anything. To this day, still doing the same identical thing. Whatever we have an opportunity to participate in, we excel.
So it may be redundant, but what is black? As in, if we're not doing it, who will? And I'm saying it
Mhm.
in the aspect of therapy. They're telling us, or what I was taught is like, why do I feel the need to
Say, bud.
yeah, like step back to let somebody else get the, the rewards? Like not reward, but like, why do I feel I had to dumb myself down in order to let somebody else feel superior? Uh,
Well, I don't think the only time we intentionally kind of dumbed ourselves down and we really didn't is when we were in challenging, precarious kinds of situations where if we would have stood up for who we are, then we could have been killed. And so I don't look at as us backing down. I look at it as a strategy. It was a strategy that we utilized during that time period to be able to stay alive. It was a strategy that we used to be able to make sure that our children were safe and our children should eat. And then the only way that we could get the food, clothing, and the shelter in some cases was to act as if we were less than. The act as because they needed that. The dominant culture needed that in order to allow us to participate in jobs and work and what have you. And so I was trying to understand what you meant by you say, why do we need black?
No, like what is black? So, for
What is
example,
black?
if we're not doing all the slave work, or if we're not doing the work, like who are we? For example, like when do we rest? Is what I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to say. Is like if
Mm-hmm.
we're not working,
Mm-hmm.
like if we're the reward, or we're the standard, we're the creators.
Mm-hmm.
When do we rest? Like what are we? When? Because right now we're always working, working, working. But
Yeah,
when we rest is like we're shamed upon, in a sense.
I think that the reason why we talk about black or dealt with black was because black was viewed in a negative way, and it was almost like a curse that was used against us. So people saw that if my sister was in the big house because they raped my mother and she was lighter complexion. So because she had lighter skin, she has a better job and she has more freedom and more access. Anyone wants to do what they can to have freedom and have access. So I think it wasn't that, black was bad. It was black was a disadvantage. That's what I best way to say it. The color was a disadvantage for us um, during those particular times. And so, who wants to deal with the disadvantage? You try to advantage yourself. And advantaging yourself means that my children can have lighter skin because I marry a lady who's of lighter complexion, then shoot, I'm gonna go ahead and do that because that was the way out. It's just like right now, people say education. Well, education is supposed to be something that frees us. So what do? We look to get education. We look to get education wherever we can find education, and not that it's good, bad, right, or wrong, but it is an advantage. So lighter complexion was and still is an advantage in a society that is predominantly ruled by people that are light white skin, lighter skin, what have you. If you go back to Europe, where everybody was lighter skin, they didn't worry about the color of your skin then. What they worried about was, do you have any money? Are you rich or poor? And so that's how they looked at you. Then they looked at what you wore, the way you carried yourself, blah, 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 blah. And so that was the advantage. So it wasn't until they got here to USA where the whole skin color piece came into play. And that's why then skin color took over. If you go to India, India has a caste system, and their caste system is based upon color. And the darker you are, the worse jobs you get, the less advantage. And not only there, once you're in that caste system, you stay in that same system for life. And they like you going to be able to advance and move out of it. Now, what they're doing in India, you're starting to see them fight the same as we fought to say, hey, regardless of the color of my skin, I want opportunities if I have the skill to perform other kinds of jobs. And I don't want to be the one who's always cleaning the ditches and literally cleaning the toilets out and the cesspools out with my hands and a cup. I mean, it's that bad. And that's going on now. Those are some of the things that are going on now. So I don't know if that answered that question.
Yes. Um, with what you just said, bending the arch. So
Bending the
what are
art.
we? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So if we know colorism is an issue, how are we going to fight against it? If it's still present today,
Mm-hmm.
like how do we fight
The
that?
way we do it now is what we're seeing is that we challenge the process that says darker color is bad or darker color is ignorant. So we challenge that process and we put everybody who has the skill set into into whatever position they qualify for. And then we prove that it's not about the color of your skin. It's about my very, very good friend, Dr. Craig, man. Doc Craig was my brother, boy. And Doc Craig was of darker complexion, but he was an ophthalmologist, specialist, surgeon, everything down at the Ohio State University. And when people had problems with folks with their eyes and what have you, they couldn't fix them. Guess who they called? They called dark skinned Doc Craig, boy. And Doc Craig was respected, so no one could say, oh, the color of his skin, because he was darker and he was the baddest dude there. When he retired, man, they said, can you come back and work 2 days a week for 3 hours? Just come around and just talk to people. And what we're going to do, we're going to give you $100,000 just to do that. That was his salary. And all he went in for 2 or 3 hours, and bingo, that was. Plus, he had his practice, so whatnot. He didn't even need the money, man.
Yeah.
But that's that. They and everyone loved this cat, man. He was on it. Doc Craig was on it, man.
So let's talk about it. So he mastered his craft,
Right.
and we're talking about pretty much work on yourself.
Yes.
So what are some steps to get to that degree to have people seek you out?
Well, I think the first thing, when I'll go back right now, I'm really hung up more on emotional intelligence, and the reason being, emotional intelligence is the window into your world, and the four pains that it has. The first pain is awareness of self, manage self. The other piece is, do you have empathy, and do you understand the environment that you're in, and then take all those things and interact and engage with people. So, from a self development standpoint, I feel that people need to first stop and look at, where am I? What are my pluses? And what are those things that are challenging me? And look at the fundamentals, reading, writing, communication, blah, blah, those fundamentals first. And then you can go into your styles. And then you go into other aspects of who you are. How do I give and receive feedback? All those things. Look at those things and say, how can I really perfect them to the degree that they're not going to be an obstacle for me as I move forward based upon whatever it is I want to do. So I look at whatever it is I think I want to do in terms of my goals and dreams and aspirations and say, in order for me to achieve that, what do I need? And today, there's not, whatever your aspirations are, there are millions of people who've already done it before. So there's a list of what you can look at. And right now, one of the hardest things to do would be go to AI and say, AI, I want to be a whatever. What are the top 15, 20 things that I need to do to be effective in that position? And then if in addition to AI, you have people. You have friends, you have associates, you have folks at church who are in those areas, and you sit down and talk to them. And then if that is not enough for you, there are books. So there's all kind of things that we can look at to see, become aware of me, Jim White, and what it is that I want to do and be effective. When I wanted to become a sales rep, so what did we do? We studied for 3 months in the office before we were even sent to school. And we went over book after book after book, and how do you deal with people, and how do you greet with people, and how do you deal with rejection, and what are the obstacles? What kind of products do we have? And so we went to thought. And then they sent us to Leesburg, Virginia, where you were then about to go to school for 3 solid weeks to learn how to be nothing but a salesperson. But before you were accepted, they gave you got off the plane on Sunday night. Monday morning, you went in, you took a test. You were in a room with 10 other people and one facilitator. And for the next 2.5 hours, you did nothing but take that test. Now, if you passed the test, when the phone rang, they didn't call your name. If you didn't pass the test, when the phone rang, they say, Jim, could you get your stuff and step out in the hallway? That meant that you didn't make the cut and your butt was going back. They would put you immediately on a plane and sent you back to your home office. That's how they did that stuff. Now, once you stayed there, Then for the next 3 weeks, man, you just went through communication and team building and then videotaping yourself and how do you handle conflicts and what are our products and how do you do demos. So by the time you left that facility, they took what probably would take a person maybe a year or two, and they compacted that bad boy down into 3 weeks. So I'm saying that to say this, no matter what it is that you want, you need to be able to look at what it is. What are those things that you have to do? What skills do you need? What might be some obstacles that are in your way? And don't just take it from yourself. So I think that's where people make the mistake. They look at themselves and say, okay, this is what the best way for you to get real good feedback about yourself is through 360-degree feedback model. In other words, you ask 15, 20, 30 other people who you know and ask them how well am I doing in those particular areas and those particular topics, and then that's the starting point. That's how you start to get things moving and get things rolling.
Yep, I share my evaluation to somebody the other day. Like, yep. I can see it's that's yeah, I can see how it is. So I was like, okay, it's true.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's it. And so, what do you want? Where you are right now, you're always being evaluated in your job. You should be getting feedback. And if you're not getting feedback, if I'm on my job and I'm not getting feedback from my manager, then what I should be doing is I should get my performance appraisal and fill it out myself and take it to my manager. Say, manager, I know you're busy, so I filled out my evaluation. All I need you to do is sign it. Now, if they don't think that you're performing at that level, then they got to say, no, you're not a five here, you're not a this, that. But you're starting to get feedback. And when you say, if I'm not there, then what do I need to do in order for me to get to that level five? Could you give me some specifics? And then that person gives you those specifics, and then you work on doing those things. But you get to be engaged. You have to be involved in your success. And your success means that there's going to be some bumps and scrapes, and someone's going to say no, and someone's going to push back on you. That's life.
Mm.
That's how life rolls, and that's what we do. And we pick that ball up and keep on going.
Well, you said 360 perspective. I also thought of going outside of your niche. You
Yes,
can't just stay at work or school or wherever you are. You have to go outside
right.
and
So get people who are outside of your norm, people who you may have only known for a short time period. Say, hey, can you give me some feedback on this one? Well, I don't know you that well. Just based upon what you know, just give me some feedback. And then you're getting that when you do the emotional intelligence assessment. When we do the big one with these major corporations, man, then people may have 30 different people evaluating them, and 30 people evaluating you in like something like 60 some odd different categories, and they're all rating you from between 1 and 5 in each of those categories. That's a lot of information. And then you get people who are your coworkers, and people who report to you, and people you report to, and people who are your customers and clients, and people who are your next door neighbor. What I tell people, don't give it to your significant other, because I don't want to start no trouble. They always read between the lines. Not that their feedback isn't valuable, but in this process,
yeah.
I would say no. We can find other processes to be able to do that. So does that kind of speak to that? Oh, so that's the first phase. Remember, so the first part is self-awareness. Then after self-awareness, self-management.
But before you said that, it's like I guess you said it was like for the colorism, like people had to unlock or reprogram themselves to thinking like colorism don't matter, like accepting who they are.
Yeah, you have to
Don't,
accept who you are, because you can't, unless you're going to go. There used to be Magnolia cream, I think it was. It was a bleaching cream.
uh,
And people go around putting bleaching cream on their face because it made them lighter.
uh,
And so we went through that crazy stuff in
it's
that
still going
crazy
on now.
time. Yeah, oh, it probably is.
Like carrot orange, yes, they're
Yeah.
still using it.
And so it's still there. So therefore, I mean, even if you put this stuff on your face, you're not going to change that much. You might get a shade. You might, you may burn your damn face up in the process with that lye and all that stuff you put it on it. But still, you have to, in the morning, you got to deal with you.
Yep.
And when you look at that mirror in the morning and say, this is what I am introducing to the world today. When I walk out of the door, this is the people that they're going to meet. Who do I want them to meet? Who do I want them to see? What do I want them to think about me and to say about me, when I'm out there, if that's important to you?
Right.
So I just don't see, there's no way around it, because whether you do it or not, people are going to think, they're going to say, they're going to reach conclusion. They're going to 7-Eleven you. 7-Eleven says in the first 7 seconds of someone seeing you or you seeing them, they reach at least 11 conclusions about you. And then
For me or them, what they think.
what they think. So it's really not about you, it's about what they think of you.
Okay.
And then they make stuff up. And the reality says, here's the data, the real data says, in the first 1/20th of a second of you seeing someone or talking to someone or engaging them, you process 264 data points about that experience. What's going on, who the people are, what's the environment, blah. And so that's in 1/20th of a second. So by the time you hit a minute, man, I've already decided that I like you, I don't like you, you're the best, you're the worst, or whatever. And all my stuff is out there. And what should happen, I believe this. I believe that we should use the etch a sketch concept. And the etch a sketch concept is this: if you have an etch a sketch and you shake that bad boy and you look at it, it's clear.
Yeah.
And you have knobs. The way I ask questions about someone and they answer that question, I ask another question, they answer that question, then another question. They will reveal to me who they are. The only way I'm going to get a true picture of who a person is through that dialogue and discussion and what they will talk about and what they reveal to me. So it's the etch a sketch. So rather than me seeing them and having an image, you should have a blank screen.
So I'll switch it up on you. I don't. It's a different phase for us, but like,
Okay.
what's the edge of sketch?
Oh,
Now,
okay.
now relationships. When you try to find your partner, how do you?
Oh, when you're trying to find a partner,
Yeah,
same
edge of
thing.
sketch.
Okay, so here I am. I'm out looking for the honey pot, right?
Uh,
And so I see a girl, and she exhibits something that is appealing to me.
uh,
Now, I can stand there and say, "Oh, she's my life mate. And she's gonna do this, and she's gonna be the best, and she's gonna da 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 da." And I can guarantee you, if you reach conclusions about her before you meet her, you are going to be wrong. So what you have to do is say, I think she fits the first bill. And the first bill that I'm looking for, the girl looks good. She got a body on her, boy. She's like that. As a kid, no, I wasn't a kid when I was in the military. I had this image of the ideal woman for James Arthur White.
uh,
What she looked like, how tall she was, what her body looked like, what her butt looked like. I mean, in my mind. And so you go out and see someone who fits the visible piece of it, but then you start to talk to that person, and all those other things could be totally and completely off. Now, you might be lucky and you may find someone that fits some of that stuff. You said, ooh, I'm getting close here. Let me keep working. But I'm guaranteeing you that all the stuff that you want that person to be is not going to be there. Now, between the two of you, because she may look at you and be saying the same thing. So between the two of you, you talk it out, you work it out to see how we can come together and accept some things that are different, and I can change some things and they can, and we might be able to get pretty close. Might be able to get pretty close. But that's the way the piece works. As opposed to you looking at her and just believing and hoping that she's gonna be all that. And she's doing the same thing with you. So I can guarantee you will be disappointed. You will be disappointed because it's not going to work that way. And there have been some people in my life, man, that I think about them right now. It's like, damn, boy, that girl was fine. And I even went to make those kind of connections, and part of it worked, part of it didn't work. You know, and that's the life we live. And then you go on through life, and you realize you may want communication more than you want the body, something. What do I give up on? Because as kids, man, we want everything when we're young, and then reality sets in. So it's you have to you've got to leap through those pages. You have to ask your question. You have to be realistic about what it is. But the biggest thing to do, if nothing else, is at least write down what it is you want. Write down in detail what it is I want in a job.
Struggling with that.
Write down in detail what I want in a relationship,
Right.
and put that down. And then when you meet that person, you start, the first thing you want to do, I want to get to know them, and I want them to get to know me, because I don't know if I fit their description of ideal. And if the two of you are adult enough and honest enough with each other, you may even at some point in time start to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. You know, this is why this makes sense to me. And then they could do the same. And then you say, okay, well, where are we? How far apart are we on what it is that we want and what it is that we're looking for? And then work to try to do it. Or you may say, this one ain't going to work. That dog ain't going to hunt in this race. Yeah. So, and that's the hardest thing in the world, relationship. So many factors that go into develop, and probably the biggest factor is honesty. Just being honest up front, instead of hiding it and putting it away, But it's not easy. It's not easy.
Right. So what would be the second step for self? I took a detour. So the second step for
Okay, so that first thing as we said, with the self awareness,
yeah.
and now that I'm aware of me, I then look at my profile of me, and I look at the profile of the job that I want. Or I look at the profile of the career that I want. And I'm going to ask myself, how do I and what I have and what I don't have fit into that particular job? And I see where the pluses are and where the minuses are. And then I ask myself some serious questions. Okay, do I really want to do that? Am I willing to put that much work into it? Am I willing to go back to school? Am I willing to get that certification? All those things. And then you start working it. And then that's where you drop down into that self-managing, because now I got to manage me in that space, in that environment, and then try to work that. And that's why you're constantly getting feedback. It's always, in and out, trying to connect to see what those things are. And then putting those together, I also believe you need a spiral bound notebook so you can write every single thing down. Everything down.
So because I have a few notebooks, I try to. How do you do a spiral notebooks? 'Cause I have a few. I try to make it like one for gratitude in the morning, stuff like that, and then one for future ideas. Like how? But how do you?
Well, I would say that it would probably depend on you. Some people just have one book
Okay.
and they put everything down in that one book. I've seen people who bought at the beginning of the year a whole crate full of spiral bound notebooks. On the front of it, they put the date, they put the time, and they just write. And they write. And when that one is down, they move that one over. And they have some kind of ways of maybe dating it and labeling it. So if you want to go back to look at certain things at certain times. So I've seen people do that. And then others may have two. I don't think any more than two would that, unless that's your own thing. And if that's your own thing where you have 2, 3, 4 books, I would get confused,
Yeah.
and what you want to do with the one spiral bound notebook. When I was a trainer in the corporate environment, because we didn't have the technology that we had before, what I would tell people, if I don't have my calendar and my spiral bound notebook in my hand, you cannot hold me accountable for anything. Nothing.
I want to use that.
Because it's just a dialogue.
Oh,
It's just a dialogue. Now, if you really want to be serious with me, rather than stopping me in the hallway, let's set a time where we can come together and sit down, where I will have my calendar and I'll have my spiral bound notebook, and then we can talk and we can kind of roll from there. So that's what we did back then. Now, with phones, you could have everything in your phone.
yeah.
Because phones are equipped now to have all those things in them, so you can utilize that as something. But somehow recording you and where you are and what you, I think it's so important. How else do you get validity? How else do you find out if you're an integrity based person? You know, and if I'm not asking feedback from other people, you know, who am I? Am I just zooming myself? You know, I need sometimes I need some real straight up feedback. And there are times go to the person that you know gets on your last nerve. And you know that they don't have much of anything good to say about you, and ask them for their feedback. And you can say, well, I know they're going to kind of slam me, but I'm going to see, is there anything within what this person is saying that I really need to take a deeper look at? That I need to, see as some serious, and they may be the ones that tell you something that the other ones who like you won't tell you. Because they don't want to hurt your feelings. You're my buddy, you're my friend, da-da-da. Or the other person say, you are my buddy, you are my friend, and I'm going to wear your behind out. So boom, 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 boom. You ask for it, and here it is. That may be some of the straightest stuff that you have received in a long time.
First time in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, you get smacked.
Okay. So random question. I won't throw you off in the spin.
No.
Boxing, like it's becoming popular now. Like the White House
Boxing?
want to do boxing. Like artists
Well,
want to fight. Like
yeah,
what's up with that?
okay, the White House
Yeah, they
wants to
build
do
a
boxing.
something arena.
Now, who's building that?
I ain't doing much research, but I keep seeing it on my timeline. So I thought,
It's got to be Donald Trump. That's a Donald Trump thing. If there was anybody else in the White House and they would even suggest that, they would have thrown them out of the White House. They would have lost credibility instantly. The only one who could say something like that and do something like that in the White House would be someone like a Donald Trump. He could say that kind of stuff because no one's going to challenge you. And they'll say, oh, that's what he does, Just like I'm hearing now. So he's backed away from his $1.8 billion piece that he dealt with. He's backing away now from the Kennedy Center where the law says he has to take his name down. Joyce Beatty was behind getting that push and saying, hey, I'm not mad at you, man. It's just that you can't do that legally. If you want to do that, you could do it, but go to the right way and, through the legislation that's there to do that, to make that piece happen. So he's backed away from 2 or 3 of those things that he wanted. And I think when he looked at the $1 billion piece, the 1 point, whatever that thing, $1 trillion, whatever it was, that he found out that if you have a law that says if you feel the government has aggrieved you in some kind of way, then you have a right to sue. Well, guess what? We all gonna be suing, man. What did the White House do to us? What did the law do to us? And it's a record. So if they get money back, we get money back. And then other people, what about the people who were just fired for no reason whatsoever? They just fired them. They just terminated them. What about the officers who had been working for 30, 40 years and someone just says, okay, we no longer want you. I'm going to pluck you out, throw you away, and I'm not going to do it, with any kind of law. I'm just going to do it. So I think once he got feedback, because I'm sure he didn't do this stuff on his own. He didn't have the depth to be able to do anything like that. So when he got feedback on the reality of that crazy thing that he wanted to do, he can't support it. Even right now, and with the big, the yellow room, the big great room, the dance hall, ballroom. Well, he said, well, you don't have to worry about this because I got people who are going to pay for this. These are private donors who are going to pay for it. And guess what? The private donors ain't going to pay. He's now asking us for $1 billion to do the thing that he said was his. But he's the one who tore it down on his own. He didn't get any approval. And now you want somebody to come and support you? Start a damn war because you want to start a war that's only going to take a week or two, right? And now I need the rest of Europe to support me on this war. And you're saying, wait, bro, we weren't there. You never spoke to us before you did those kind of things. So, I think with anything, if you give a person enough rope, they'll hang themselves. I mean, They will. I mean, if you don't follow the law and you're just going to jump out and just do anything based upon a whim and you have no one around you who would tell you what you're doing. Someone he just did the other day, they said he started writing messages, sending out on the internet at 11 o'clock and he went for 13 straight hours. I don't know if you saw that sheet. He just had all kinds of stuff on this sheet. It showed him, the one that just grabbed me, it showed Donald Trump on a horse riding alongside of Abraham Lincoln, and they were riding through Washington, D.C., and above them was a space shuttle flying in, and just a whole lot of other symbols around. Say, where in the you and Abraham Lincoln on a horse together? I mean, it just makes no sense. You know, just all those things now, here's the point that I'm making. If that was any other president, that president would have someone who says, I don't think that's in our best interest for you to do that. And this is why I think that it would have a negative impact on you. But Trump has no one around him who is strong enough, who has enough integrity, who is not fearful, who will say, Prez, I don't think that's going to help you. I think so. He does whatever he wants without anyone providing feedback, which I talk about in emotional intelligence. The first part is self awareness. But if you don't have anyone to give you feedback, you believe you.
That's true.
Anything you say. So he has no one that's providing him with feedback to help him make quality decisions that he can back up, he can support. And so he'll jump out there all by himself, doing his own thing, and the walls come tumbling down. So emotion. I would love to come and do an emotional intelligence assessment with you. I really would. I would love to go. I'm not joking, and I would do it with great sincerity. But I would love to sit before Donald Trump and do an emotional intelligence assessment with him, and then provide him feedback around what it is and why it is. Being aware of self, okay, then managing yourself. Then the other piece up here is empathy. Does he have empathy? And if he doesn't, how do we develop empathy? Does he understand the environment that he's working in, that he's dealing with? And then when you put all that together, now can you go out and engage people in some kind of way that's meaningful for you? According to him, that rash on the back of his hand is because the rash on the back of his hand is there because of him shaking hands. Now, that was his thing. Now, how you get a rash on the back of your hand because you've been shaking people's hands? So,
So my question for you is, who is your 360? Like, how are you getting evaluation? So you're a doctor. Like, how are you getting your?
yeah,
I know you teach. I know you get the students, but
yeah.
I just want to hear it from you. Like,
Well, my biggest thing is just that. Before I was in 3 to 4 in a class, 3 or 4 weeks, 3 or 4 days a week, and in that classroom, I could have anywhere from 20 to 100, 200 people. And at the end of every single class, what I always did provide evaluations. And on the feedback on the evaluations, I asked things, for them to be open, to be honest, to provide those things that I did well. Provide, I kind of couch and say, provide one thing that I could do to improve myself. And then I asked them, what was your role? How did you participate? Did you ask any questions? And so then I get it over and over. And one thing that for me that was always hard to do, I didn't want to see my evaluations unless something was wrong. Now, if something was wrong, I wanted to see that because I wanted to correct that. But otherwise, a lot of guys would do their training and then immediately go to the evaluation. I didn't touch mine unless there's an issue there or it's a new program. Now, if it's a new training, something new, then I would want to see it because I didn't want to know what do I have to do with this new training for it to really be effective and really meet the needs of the people. So that's one of the ways that I did that. Now, I've taken emotional intelligence assessments. I've taken them for years. I've taken other 360 assessments. I did social styles 360 assessments. You kind of, I did the big five. I did Myers Briggs. I had probably 30, 40 different kind of assessments, and some I've taken multiple times,
Okay.
you know. And even way back in the day when we were doing effective presentations, there was an assessment in effective presentations because what we were trying to do is not only have people to be effective when they're presenting, but how are you engaging people? What are those people's responses? How are these things happening? How are those things happening? And so those are the ways that I, get feedback. And even now, whenever I do something, especially if it's new, we have people in the classroom. Their role is to do nothing but give us some feedback. How did it go? And they sit down and say, okay, this went well, blah, blah, blah. Could you do this? Could you do that? And not just how did you greet the people? Did you say hi? I mean, that's a real, um, I do not run away from difficulty. To me, if there's a tough question, I want people to ask it. That's why I would love to sit in front of Donald Trump because I'm sure it would be challenging. I'm sure there would be some things that would be hard to deal with, and I would want to be there. I would love to sit down with the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, seriously, and say, "What's up?"
Like connect with Oprah and get that connection
Yeah,
again.
yeah, I mean, yeah. And like my thing would be like, how do you hate everybody, people that you don't even know? What happened in your life that said an entire population of people are less than you?
Mm.
I would just want them to tell me. I mean, I ain't mad at them. I don't give a damn about it one way or the other. But I would love to have that kind of dialogue. I would love to have that kind of conversation. And I think that, to me right now, my model, they would be a Thomas Jefferson. He would glitter, he would have the books, he would have the education, but deep down inside, if you as a dog did not emancipate the woman that you raped for 40 damn years, who was the mother of 6 of your children, if you didn't emancipate her upon your death, you are worthless.
Mm.
And that's where his mind was with all that intelligence. And he did not only did that to us, he did the same identical thing to Native Americans. Even though he said Native Americans are almost as good as white people, but what they need to do is they need to leave their culture and come over to the European culture and let us teach them how we do things. He said if they did that, then they could be at parity with white people. But they had to give up their culture and everything that they are about. And so he did everything he could do to wipe them out. I mean, the guy was just, I don't know the word that I could use
Mhm.
to really be, and you know what the term would be, and my cousin and I were talking about this, the nature of the beast.
Mm.
That's just the nature of the beast. And that a racist beast is always going to be racist, no matter what you do, no matter what your level of intellect might be. That's who they are to the core,
Okay.
to the core. And I would challenge anyone out there, you know, show me where I'm wrong with Thomas Jefferson. Go pull up his information, pull up the data, pull up the books, pull up everything you can, and show me where I am mistaken about that man and what he did. One of the things that he did was really crazy. He had a blacksmith that he liked because this guy did great things, I guess.
Blacksmith?
A blacksmith,
Not me.
no, not you, not a blacksmith. That's like this was a legit blacksmith. You got a legit blacksmith. And so he freed him,
Okay.
and he said, "I'm going to free Bob." And I'm going to let him have the house that he's been living in.
Okay.
But Bob had a wife and 2 children.
Okay.
He did not emancipate Bob's wife and Bob's children. So when he died, he watched someone sell his wife from one part of the country, sell one of his children to another part of the country, and sell another child to another part of the country. Now, how could you do that? What in you would allow empathy? I think it's beyond empathy. I think it's the nature of the beast.
Mm.
And it's noticed like when that story about the child or somebody found a snake was outside and it was cold and the snake was all kind of all kind of yeah, they found that snake and the snake was almost dead. So they got the snake and they brought it in and laid it down by the hearth and they got some milk and got some bugs and stuff that snakes eat, And he nourished the snake back to life. And they could see the snake was moving around and hissing and all that. And he went over to pet the snake and the snake bit him. He said, well, damn, look at all the stuff that I did for you. I found you. You were almost dead. I brought you in. Da, 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 da. And the snake looked at him and said, I'm a snake.
Yeah.
That's what I do. It's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the snake. And so for people like the Thomas Jeffersons of the world, I mean, nature of the beast. For him to do what he did, and anyone can go and read all the information you can about him. This guy had 600 slaves. They did everything, built every single thing, fed him food, his trees, his grass, his house, heat, everything. And when most of the other white Europeans at that time who had properties like that, most of them said, at my death, all of the people who I enslaved are free. Not him. So anyway, that's kind of like a soap opera for me.
Okay. So you spoke self-awareness, self-aware, profile, and then what will be the next for
The self-awareness, and then I said the self-management. And then after, can I manage myself? Because if I look at to see what those areas are that I need development in or what have you, now that I've done it, now that I've read it, now that I've practiced, can I manage myself? If I'm a person who it becomes hostile when people challenge me and push back on me. So even though I'm aware of that, when will I know whether or not I can do it? When I get out there and I'm in a situation and someone challenges me and push back on me, have I developed a skill that I can utilize to manage that, or do I go into my usual reaction, recoil, get mad, get angry, those kind of things? So that would be an example of the management piece. And then the empathy, what empathy does, empathy is not a soft skill. Empathy is my ability to understand the other person from their perspective. So whatever it is, because if I want to respond to you and I have empathy, I'm going to figure out what I think might be the best way to respond to you to keep this conversation going, to provide you with the information that I need. And I'm going to try to do that as opposed to I just take one shot over here, one shot over there, another shot over, and make the situation worse than what it was. So empathy is critical, absolutely critical if you're going to be effective on any kind of job and any kind of work. So don't take empathy as a soft skill. Empathy is a strategy that people use to better understand whoever it is across from them, whether it's an individual or whether it's a group. And then, so now that I know all that, now what kind of environment am I in? Because when I did trainings, if I'm in one kind of environment, I could deliver the training in a certain kind of way. If I'm in another environment, I can't deliver that same training in that way because of the environment that was there.
So
And
what are you looking at?
Well, I'm looking at what I try to find out before I do a training. I try to find out from the people that we're getting the training, doing the training for. I ask them, what do we want? What do you want that particular population to walk away with from this training? And then are there any obstacles? Are there any things that have been taking place and as it relates to this population of people that we should know about? Example, like if we're dealing with a group of people who were riled up because so-and-so had been fired and such and that had been fired, and the manager said, that's the way it's going to be, so you just suck it up, And then I go in there trying to teach, well, can't we all get along? And I'm wondering why they're looking at me throwing daggers. because that's where their mind is, because someone set them up before I even got there. And they want me to come in and try to smooth everything out without telling me, what it is. It's almost like when I did diversity training at Honda on the midnight shift in East Liberty for the guys who made engine blocks. And these are big dudes who pick up a 150-pound engine block. They were doing things. And the last thing that they wanted to see was a black dude talking about we're going to do diversity from 12 o'clock tonight till 8 o'clock in the morning. And all of them were white dudes out there when I did this thing. When I went in and told them that we were going to do diversity training and all that, they looked at, are you crazy? And boy, they kind of swelled up at me, and that's when I kind of threw some humor in. I said, but before you guys get mad, I notice all you have Coke cans and you have, was it fruit punch drinks and all that, but you ain't drinking. All you're doing is spitting in the can. I said, you see up here, I have a Coke. I'm drinking from my can. Don't none of y'all mix your can up with mine, or we will be fighting from now until 8 o'clock in the morning. They cracked up laughing. Then after we cracked up laughing, then I said, what's the issue with it? And so I took like probably 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and just wrote down all the issues that they talked about with diversity. And one of them was picking on white men. I said, well, look, I ain't no damn fool. There's one of me, and there's like 15 of y'all, and just about all y'all bigger than me. I would not be picking on white guys in here today. And so when I broke that kind of up, and I told them that I would take your request and I'll shoot it up to the CEO. I said, now, do any of you want me to put your name on the sheet? No, don't put. But then we did the class, man, and it went really, really well. Many came up afterwards, some came up afterwards and said, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I think we really benefited from it. So, it's
How
that.
did you learn that piece? That's not self-education. Like,
No, it isn't.
how did you?
It's. I think what it is, it's the life experience. And if you know that someone is upset, what you don't want to do is push that button. What you want to do is to de-escalate, which comes into the whole thing of coping with difficult people. So it's with conflict. So when you're in a conflict situation, you don't want to escalate, you want to de-escalate. So I just took that from me dealing with one or two people to me dealing with a group of people. Plus I train police officers. And so I know with police officers, they don't want to go up and row the crowd. They want to de-escalate and bring them down. So it just came to me at the time when I was doing it. And it worked exceptionally well. We were able to get through the class. We got really good feedback from them because, they all had the food. And they were asking them to give me feedback on teaching diversity to y'all guys, And so that's the kind of stuff that happens. It becomes like anything else that you do, you acquire skills. And it's not always like you go from 1 to 2 and a 2 to 3 and 3 to 4. You may have to go from 1 to 17 and then come back to 2 because that. Okay, so anyway, I think that, after a while your skills kick in, and the more time you're in front of people, and none of that, you observe other people, you watch other people, you see what they're doing, see how they're working. I'm always open to learning from someone else. I don't care how young they might be or how old they might be. There's always something else for me to learn, and I stay open to that. And for as long as I've been doing this, I'm not saying I'm the guy with all the juice. No, I'm just another guy who got the degree, right? Got the DR. Dr. Jim.
How do
Dr.
people
Jim.
get in contact with Dr. White?
Getting in touch with me, my email is jwhite, the number 2, at columbus.rr.com. jwhite2 at columbus.rr.com. My website is down. Someone stole my website after 31 years, and I keep saying I'm going to put a new one up. So it's not up, but I still have a piece of website on Facebook, something like that. A piece of it out there. And I have a new one ready to pop out there. I need to talk to you to see how I pop that bad boy out. but that's it.
AI is your friend.
Yeah, yes, it is, and it is. And AI, and I have all. That's where I got all the parts and pieces from. So
Yeah.
I have all that. My phone number, but 614-562-3372. But the only thing with that is that people call and all that comes shows up as a number. I do not answer this numbers because, I must get literally 30 plus calls a day from just numbers. So if you're going to call, please put your name, have your name on it or your company or something so that I can know who's calling. But if there's any questions that I can answer, please, please, please don't hesitate. Any pushback that you have, tell me I'm crazy. Tell me what I'm doing makes no sense whatsoever. Or whoever that person
So
out there that
you
sent that statement, if you think I'm wrong, send another message in so you and I can talk in dialogue, and we can talk in dialogue one on one. We can talk in dialogue online. We can talk in dialogue on Zoom if that makes you feel comfortable or better. I'm really open to that. So I'm open.
your pushback, you may seem too easy. Like, okay, you've been to experience. Like, talk about it. Give an example of a time where you did a diversity class and went sour, and you got to fix it. Like, because you're like, oh yeah,
Mm.
get some real stories. Like,
Okay,
people
all
need
right. Well, I
hear some
think I don't.
juice.
Did I tell you one about the attorney? I was doing the diversity class with Betty Montgomery's. She was the director at the time, and I went around the classroom and I got to this one person. He's probably second or third from the end, and he said, if I give you my name, you might think I want to participate. And I looked at him like, okay, you. In my mind, I was saying, you must think I'd give a damn whether you participate or not. So I went to the next person, and then the next person, and then so I started class. And so what he did, he took his chair, pushed it back up against the wall, put his feet up on the desk, reached down into his briefcase and pulled out a newspaper and popped his newspaper open in class. And when he did that, the class got quiet and everyone looked at me like, what you gonna do with that one? And so I said, folks, I tell you what, you folks have been really great, but I want to take an early break. So can you just take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll start the class. And then when he got ready to get up, I said, sir, can you come out in the hallway? And so when I got him out in the hallway, I said, I don't know what your problem is. I said, but guess what? I'm not going to let you do. I'm not going to let you disrespect your team members. I'm not going to let you disrespect yourself. And you're damn sure not going to disrespect me in my class. This is my class. You will not exhibit that kind of behavior. Are you giving me permission to leave? I said, I didn't tell you to show up.
Yeah.
So whoever sent you here is the person that you need to go back to and see if you have permission. But if you're going to be in this class, you will not do that in my class. This is my space, And he went back in and he said, do I have to talk? I said, I don't give a darn whether you talk or not. But guess what you're not going to do? You ain't going to read no damn newspaper and put your foot on the desk. And so he sat there probably about 4 or 5 hours. And finally, towards the end, he started leaning there and talking and all that. I had the same thing happen with me with a police officer. It's a black guy. And I got to him. He said the same thing. He said, and he had his gun on the side. And he said, you might think I want to produce. I said, bro, you are strapped better than I am. I said, but in this class, it ain't happening. And then the other guy, man, cut that crap out. Sit your ass down. They got on him and straightened that out. The only other thing that I think for me was a great shock when 9/11 was it 9 not 9/11 January 6th. After that whole thing took place, I was teaching a police class, and I asked, and I don't know why I asked the question. I said, "Did any of you think that what happened last night was a peaceful tour through the Capitol?" And I didn't think anyone was small, but I had about 25 people raise their hand and said, yeah, it was a peaceful tour through the cap. I said, what? I said, were we watching the same thing? And I tried, but they were almost like oblivious, or again, the nature of the beast. They didn't want to see all the other stuff. And as a police officer, how they beat up on police officers, and a couple police officers died. And they kept saying that it was a peaceful tour. I said, well, can you give me an example? They picked one example. They said, well, remember when they were inside the Capitol and they were walking between the velvet ropes, and the guard told them to stay between, and they were out of all that stuff. And then I said, well, I don't see it as peaceful. I said, do you know that someone went into an office, stood up on a desk, pulled their clothes down, and took a dump on a person's desk in front of all? How low can you get to do that in front of friends? You're going to do that? And so we went on. So after a while, after hearing some of them, I just said, okay, let's go on with class. And then afterwards, a number of people came up and said, we would like to have jumped in and supported what you were saying, but if we say the wrong thing at the wrong time, it could not be in our best interest. So those are the tougher ones. I can't think. Nothing to me comes to mind that like an argument or a debate, or I did have a sister in the class one time, and she just started crying, and I said, what's wrong? She said, do I have to go through this again? She said, all the people in this room are college graduates. They all went through all of this stuff, and now we're asking them, do they still get it? And she was really upset that she had to sit through that again and deal with that. So that's for a African American female in that situation. So there's all kind of stuff, man. All kind of things out there that happen. But the only thing it lets me understand is that people are people are people, and you can never 7-Eleven anybody, because whatever you think, I can guarantee you it's probably going to be wrong. If not all of it, a major part of it is probably going to be wrong in terms of dealing with it. So those are the only ones that I can think of right now that were real challenging.
Okay.
So any other questions? There
Yeah.
it is again.
So what helps you keep going, like to self-evaluate? Basically, what have you done for the viewers to continue to work on self?
What I try to do, I am interested in information, interested in culture. Anytime I hear of something new, something different about people interaction, I eat it up. I want to pull it in. I want to look at it. I look at a lot of history. There's so many history documentaries, and almost any history documentary I'm interested in because of different people, different populations. I don't see as many documentaries on African history because our society hasn't put as much energy into that. But European history, Asian history, Japanese, Chinese, some really powerful documentaries. And each one of them gives me another little layer of data, another little layer of information that helps me to be able to utilize it when I'm dealing with, good, calm, fun situations or challenging situations. And I think the big thing is just to always acknowledge that you don't know everything. And no matter how long you do this work, you will never know all of it. And you will never get to the point where, hey, I'm perfect, I can handle anything. But I'm open to it, and I'm open to any questions. Before every single class, I tell people, please, 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 if you have a question, do not hesitate to ask. I kind of jokingly say, if you don't want to ask the question, write it on a piece of paper and throw it on the floor. And if any of you see a piece of paper on the floor with a question on it, just bring it up to me. I won't ask who wrote it. My only role will be to respond to it. And if I can't respond, I'll let you know. But then I can guarantee you by the end of the day, I will have an answer for you. So that's what I do. That's kind of and I'm genuinely interested in all people. I'm not interested in just black folks, even though that's me, that's my family. So you know, I'm gonna put my family and people that I know at the head of the list. But that doesn't mean that someone from another race, other ethnicity, that can be right there with us all. You know, if we're at a point in time where we can have a dialogue, a conversation, and be open and respectful to each other, I think that's it. That's some good stuff. That's some good things happen.
Whew. Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it for now. A closing quote. A gems or gems quote.
Ooh, a closing quote. A closing quote.
So yeah, I do have a question. What does purpose over popularity mean to you?
Purpose for
Purpose over popularity. So that's the
oh,
podcast theme. So like,
your
what
purpose
does
over popularity.
yeah? So
Oh,
what does purpose over
absolutely.
popularity mean to you?
Yeah, I think I need to whatever I'm doing, I need to have a purpose for me doing it. And being popular doesn't mean that I will fulfill my purpose. And going after being popular is probably not going to allow me to be truthful. It's not going to allow me to be integrity based because I may compromise my integrity to be popular. And if you're looking for people to like you, then that to me is the wrong thing to do. It's a wrong mindset to have. I mean, it will lead you down a dangerous road. And I can almost guarantee failure if popularity, unless a Michael Jackson.
Uh,
Now that's a whole different story. And he was popular because what? Because they liked the quality of his music, and he didn't let anyone dictate his music. He played his music, and his whole thing was, no, I'm gonna play it this way, you know. And he had enough people that loved what he was doing, you know. So he was able to be extremely popular. But I'm sure he did it his way.
okay. Did you see the movie?
Oh, I saw the movie. I loved the movie. And I didn't think that I would. I said, okay, it'll be a movie of mine. It was absolutely sensational. I even shed a couple tears in the movie. I can't remember what part it was, but it just touched me when I just saw some of the things he did. I also looked at the movie as I think that kind of movie did something to bring people together, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, to see how those people, no matter where he went, they all kind of came together under what he was producing, which shows, look at the commonality. All these different people, all these different ethnicities, all these different backgrounds, but you can kind of come together under a song, under some music. So if we can come together under some music, then what are all the other things that we could come together under?
Okay.
So that would be my thought on that one. What else you got, man? I know you got one more.
I gotta go see it. I haven't seen it.
Oh man,
So,
come on,
because
bruh.
my nephew, he's a Michael Jackson fan. Like, that's all fancy, but
I
I
know
want to see
you
it.
go. You do go.
Yeah.
You really do. I mean, seriously.
Okay. So to basically close off, like I know you open to everybody. Like, what does black mean? Just close out. Like, what does black mean? Like, what does it mean?
What does black mean? Black means like anything else. It's a value. Black is a value. Just like white's a value, yellow's a value, tan's a value. It's a value, and in and of itself. So if I see someone of any of those, you know, I want to value them as people. I assess myself every Sunday because in the church that I go to, there's people of all shades, and there's some people who are white, and I assess my reaction to them and said, when I first saw that person, how did I react? What did I think? What did I do? Why do I value this person over that person? Why do I think that guy there with that suit on is different than the guy over here? Why do I think the young lady on the bleachers on the left-hand side is a value higher than the lady on the bottom right? I ask myself those questions because what happens when they come in, your mind is constantly 7-Elevening, and I don't know all of those people. So therefore, I have no data about them. And so what I ask I If I have a positive reaction, I'm less fearful of than if I have a negative reaction. If I have a negative reaction, then I ask myself, what is it about me that can cause me to have a negative reaction about someone I don't even know?
Okay.
So that's my base.
All right. Is there anything that I didn't cover that you like to cover?
No, I mean, you're on point. What I want to do, really, I want to find out what people are interested in.
Okay.
And I want to, in any way that I possibly can, to be able to dialogue, not discuss, to dialogue around what those things are.
Okay.
And the only thing I can do is to give you my opinion. And I hope that if I'm offering an opinion, it's going to be based upon my experience. It's going to be based upon my life experience, which is my reality, but it may not be other people's reality.
Look at.
Okay?
Yes,
All
sir.
right, brother. Keep doing it, man.
Yeah. Appreciate your medication. I
Right,
received
right.
it.
All right. All good.
All right.